All right. So, you know, we talked about you being like a little bit shy. I remember. Do you remember when we met?
Like when we first met face to
Like face
face.
to face. I think we chatted a little bit. So you were friends with Will first. I
I
mean,
was friends with her
yeah,
first.
yeah. I
He
well, Will and I
contacted
were
me.
friends. Yeah, Will and I were friends. And then I remember him, and he and I got close really quick. And then I remember him mentioning you, talking about you. Take a look at you. She seems like a really cool chick, and blah blah blah. And then you and he became, really really good friends. And I think you and I started chatting a little bit. And then I finally met you at the first ATB, America the Beautiful
Yeah.
conference in Hollywood. And yeah, and I remember thinking like, yeah, I don't think she digs me. Because you are so shy. You're more of an introvert, and I'm definitely more outgoing. I'm a little more outgoing, and I don't know. I'm not shy meeting people and extending myself. And you are. You're a little. I don't know if shy is the right word, Jen.
I
Um,
wouldn't say I'm shy, but I'm definitely reserved.
Reserved. That's a good word. Yeah,
Yeah,
reserved.
I don't have like and I never was a girl that had like this huge circle of friends. I always had close friends and then, people I knew on the outside. But I do remember first meeting you, and I was nervous to meet you because I looked up to you so much.
Oh, that's sweet.
And I had met Will before, and the first time him and I spoke, he actually messaged me on Facebook Messenger, and he said, "Hey, your work is dope."
Yeah, yeah.
That was the first message I got from him, and I saw the name messaging me, and I'm like, "Oh my god, what is he going to say to me?" Because people were, like, "Oh my god, Will Anthony, right?"
Yeah,
He was one of the most like well-known people in PMU at the time,
right.
and he said that, and I was like, "Oh wow, thanks." And then we just like here and there would talk, and we were talking about our dogs. And then I met him for the first time at the Everlasting Brows convention,
Yeah,
and we just hit it off right away, like we were brother and sister, like
yeah, yeah.
right away. Like we just like, I don't know, it was like he was my long lost family.
I didn't like him at first. I didn't. Well, him and I, we've been friends what 8 years now,
Yeah.
and so he knows this story. Yeah, I felt like I don't know. He was just kind of weird, and I'm a little guarded towards men anyway. And he was like kind of, I don't want to say stalking, but he was a little bit online. And like at my work, and then, about the pigments, and then how he is. He called Kat, he wanted like deals, deals, deals. You know how Will is,
Yeah.
and she was like, who is this guy? He's driving me fucking crazy, and then yeah, and it was a little unsure. Like his Facebook page was a little sketchy. Like he kind of had like a fake city, and I don't know. It was like the whole thing was a little weird at first, and then I ended up talking to him on the phone because he wanted to learn. He wasn't happy with the pigments he was using, and no, that was part of it. And so, kind of talked to him with and he liked my work, and I always showed healed work. And so I, talked to him about LI and like my favorite colors and blah 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 blah. And then why we ended up talking on the phone was because he wanted to do like a training class. And he was told that he had to have, this credential and this certificate and be certified and all this stuff. I'm like, well, that's a bunch of bullshit. You don't have to answer to anybody. Anybody can just pop, you can do a pop-up class, wherever the hell you want. You're just gonna go through your local health department. Just call them and see what they require, or wherever you hold your tattoo license. So that's how, we ended up, meeting and becoming, good friends. But yeah, I remember meeting you at ATB, but he knew that you and I would really dig each other. And I
Yeah, he
remember,
told me from the beginning, he was like, "You're gonna love her. We're all gonna just be really good friends. It's gonna be our circle."
yeah,
And
yeah,
then I got even more nervous because it was at that show that you and Kat approached me about the LI signature series.
Yes, good.
But I went from meeting someone that I highly respected to being asked by them to do something this big, and I was just like kind of overwhelmed.
That was a good segue, Jenn Boyd. I've been working on my segues for the podcast. But yeah, I did. I wanted to do something, really, really cool. I modeled my business, my store, after like some of the really cool tattoo stores, right? And and they always, the tattoo industry always did like artist series. So I wanted to do an artist series, and I wanted to have like 3 really cool artists. And I knew Will was going to be, eyeliner pigments, and then Monica Avani. I definitely wanted someone, in the UK that did, really cool brows, and I was talking to, me and Will were talking about you. And then Mary, of course, actually approached Mary as well. And Mary didn't end up doing it. But yeah, and I thought you'd be really, really good at it. Your work was stellar, and Will spoke very highly of you. And you were training by then. And I saw the way your students spoke about you, Jenn. People like you. And, 'cause I don't say a lot online, especially now or the last, maybe 3-4 years. But I'm on there and I watch and I see what's being posted. I see how people respond. I watch, and I just don't really engage anymore, but I still like to know, who's out there, mentoring and, being positive, and like, who are the mean girls? Because there's always a set of mean girls, but you know what I mean? But anyway, and that's how, and I do collabs with people, and it's how I kind of get a feel on whether I want to collab with somebody, because I got to like you. I've got to, I get a lot of emails. I get inundated with people wanting a series with LI, or they want to collab with me on this, or they blah, 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 blah. And I got to like you, and I got to have a lot of respect for you. I got to admire you. I think there's a lot of credentials and assets that you have to have. You have to be really good with people, and like supporting and helping. And that was you. I just got the feeling that you were a great trainer. You supported your students, and people genuinely liked you and respected you. And you're doing something right when people admire and respect you, right? So I thought you'd be perfect, because when you have your own pigment line, that is a lot of support. You don't just, launch a pigment line and collect the sales. I mean, it's a lot of work. I mean, if people buy into your personal pigment line, right? But if they buy Jenn Boyd's line, I see it as they're buying into you, Jenn Boyd, the person, Jenn Boyd, the artist. They're buying into you. And because they respect and admire you, then, they know your pigments are going to be good, and you are there to support them and help them learn the colors. I know there's only 4, but still, things go wrong. Someone can go too deep and get a ashy result. Some people can use the wrong color on someone super ruddy and get a gray result. And who do they come to? They don't come to me when a Jenn Boyd pigment, ashed out. They go to Jenn Boyd,
Right.
And I knew you'd be really good at that. So I wanted to ask you, how has it been? First of all, what did it feel like developing your line? It's a lot of time and effort. And then when it finally launched, when it's out there for all to see, and they're purchasing it and they start using it. I mean, there's a lot of, I know it's pride. It's also anxiety, I think, a little bit.
A lot of anxiety.
Yeah. And then supporting your supporting your customers, supporting, your other artists, using your line. How's that whole, journey been for you?
So when I started creating the colors, I just I know that we're like kind of focused on 4. So for me, I was like, okay, I need to think of 4 colors that will get me through almost all my clients. So had to have a blonde, had to have at least 2 brunettes. And then my goal was to come up with an almost black, because I had so many clients that were Hispanic and Asian that had jet black eyebrows, but their skin was not, fits 5 and 6. Their skin was like fits 3 and 4. Yeah. And to get a color to heal black in that skin is so hard because we just start heading towards that ashy, gray blue color. Yeah. So Raven was the one that I probably concentrated on the most because that was kind of the scariest color for me. The other 3 were kind of based off of favorite colors that I already had, but things that I did to modify them to make them what I used every day. And once we were able to launch them, I was so afraid.
You were afraid?
I was so afraid. The people that tested them for me were, close friends of mine and amazing artists. And, their depth was precise. They know what they're doing and they were in love with them. They're like, I'm never going to use anything else. These are perfect for brows. These 4 colors get me through everybody. But, when you put them out there, you don't know if it's going to be a beginner artist using them, advanced, if they're heavy handed, if they're not. So what I was afraid of is that maybe people would start using them and their technique was off. And then all of a sudden everyone had ashy brows or the wrong color. And then it, taints the reputation of the line. Yeah. So I was very adamant to make sure that I was in the groups every day, looking at anybody making a comment about Jen Boyd, series, making sure that if someone needed help, I would message them or ask them if it was okay to message them or if they wanted to email me. And I will say that I really haven't had too many people have issues. I think I've mentored, anywhere between 5 to 10 people that were beginners that were having a hard time with color choices. Mm-hmm. But other than that, people have really had great results. And even 1 or 2 years down the line now, their clients are coming back and the color's not changing.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, your pigments are awesome, and they've always been great sellers, right from the beginning. But yeah. I messaged you about 3-4 weeks ago, and I was like, holy shit, what is going on? They are blowing up. The sales, they just went up exponentially. And I think it's because they're iron oxides. I think people are having some concerns about the carbon load in some of the organic lines, and they're seeing, and it's lasting too long, right? It's really interesting, Jen, because I can't remember exactly when. It could have been 5-6 years ago. The whole industry wanted organic, last forever, organic, no modifiers. Modifiers are a ripoff. No, we don't need modifiers. I remember one comment, them saying, companies, like LI only put out modifiers to make extra money. We don't need modifiers. Make a pigment strong enough and it will just cover up the overtone, undertone. These are all comments that I still have in a folder. I was screenshotting everything. Because I wanted to address it, like in a blog, and organic, like I said, just obsessed, and LI took a hit. It's like a lot of people just don't want iron oxides anymore. Not everybody, of course. There was a percentage of the industry that knew. They knew, and yeah. And then here we are, a few years later, and they're going back to iron oxides.
Right. I think that there was that rumor that iron oxides all heal orange and pink.
And that's just such bullshit. And I'm sorry to say the word bullshit. It just pisses me off.
Total crap. Because
it is total crap. And
it was the over modifying that people were doing because they were told that if they're microblading, they had to modify every pigment that they're using.
Right.
And in fact, they didn't want to learn color theory. They just wanted to, grab a dark brown, add orange to it, and blade away.
That's exactly right. And you have to learn color theory. You have to learn the canvas you're putting pigment in. And a facial canvas, is much more complex than the body skin. There's a lot we deal with on the face, a lot of complexities, with facial skin. And the facial skin, the undertone, puts a lot of pressure on a pigment, especially through the aging process. And there are some iron oxides. I mean, I don't like the blanket statement that all iron oxides turn pink and orange. That's not true. There are some iron oxides that do. Red iron oxide is strong. Some of them are strong. But pigment manufacturers like LI, they know which red iron oxides are lower in light fastness, that aren't as strong. It's just knowing, it's a manufacturer knowing its colorants, knowing the light fastness, how to pair light fastness with other light fastness, because each colorant has a light fastness and you have to pair them, it's like you have to marry them properly. It's a very delicate balancing act, especially when it comes to aging. And I would say not all organics are going to turn a block of gray or a block of blue either.
Not all will, but it also depends on the technique and the skill.
Yeah, for sure. Technique and skill, that's for sure.
People just drill it in there.
Yeah.
And any color that you use, even the warmest brown, is going to go gray.
Exactly. If anything sits in skin long enough, there's always the potential it's going to shift color. LI's philosophy has always been, if our pigments happen to last long enough in skin, and some of them do, Jen, iron oxides. I think the big myth is an iron oxide falls out in a year and a half. And that's not true either. I mean, there are countless, not just me, but countless artists where we have, LI pigments 4, 5, 7, 8 years old in skin. It's still there. Not that it doesn't need to be refreshed. It's certainly lightened, but it's still there and it has not turned color. Or it's slightly ashed out, or you see some slight pinkness. So LI's philosophy has always been that if any of our pigments happen to last that long in skin, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, we just don't want to see extreme shifting of color. We don't want to see extremes. If there's any shift in color, we want it to be subtle. That's their goal, and because it is true that anything sits in skin long enough is gonna shift color a little bit. Do you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, truthfully, I'm gonna be honest. If my brows are gonna, my client's brows are gonna come back any color, I'd rather it be warm.
I'd rather, yeah, exactly.
It's the easiest to fix.
Right. I agree. It's
brows that are much harder to bring back to life.
Yeah, because you can just put a little brow mod and a little taupe, exactly. and it's good to go, But if they go, really gray, well, now you got to get out orange, and orange is a complicated color, right? It's a color.
You have to be so precise with that; it's not even funny.
No, you have to be very, very precise. Yeah,
you can't just go a little bit outside that color because you're going to have an orange halo.
Well, exactly. Yeah, you have to be, and you have to be precise with the amount. I mean, do you go straight orange? Do you do yellow orange? Do you do mostly yellow with a drop of like a warm yellow? And that's why you have to learn color theory, because modifiers is just part of our business, man. They are needed, and I think a lot of the people that dismiss them and even had some negative statements about them 6, 7 years ago are now using them, or
Yeah, I feel like every line now has modifiers.
Every line does, because they didn't listen to us.
Well, I mean, everyone thinks they know.
Well, and everybody's got to figure out stuff on their own.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. And I think and everybody's trying to come out with something new, a new niche, and something different, something unique. And and I don't blame them, but it was just the negative comments that bothered me. But yeah, so and your pigment lines are doing great. Everybody loves them, and I know you're going to be adding some colors to your lineup. We won't say too much, but right
Yeah,
now,
there'll be
yeah.
a couple more colors coming.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully this fall everything's back on track. We're all backed up. We're on back order with colorants and ingredients. I mean, it's just a mess. It's still a mess. Even though COVID's pretty much, over, the ripple effects of COVID is still very much hurting manufacturers with, things on back. I got a microwave that has been on back order for a year, for Pete's sake. A microwave, so we just remodeled. Yeah, because it's a certain size. We got it built into
Right.
the island, and a year. Are you kidding me? A microwave. So yeah, hopefully this fall everything will be kind of flowing again, a little bit more normal with stock, and we can get going on your colors.